The silver bracelet should never have been inside Claire Bennet's basket. Everyone in the royal courtyard knew it. The piece belonged to the crown collection, kept behind a locked glass cabinet and displayed only during state ceremonies. Yet there it was, shining between bundles of rosemary and thyme while Lady Victoria Ashcombe held it high enough for every servant and noble to see. "A royal treasure," Victoria announced, her voice carrying beneath the stone arches. "Found in the possession of a kitchen maid." Claire stood beside the herb basket with flowers still dusting one sleeve. She had been pulled from the kitchens before the morning bread had finished baking, given no time to understand why guards were searching her things or why half the castle had gathered to watch. A murmur moved through the crowd. Some servants looked frightened for her. Others looked away. Theft from the crown could mean dismissal, imprisonment, or exile beyond the northern border. Captain Daniel Hayes stepped forward to take the bracelet, but Victoria kept it in her hand. "She has been receiving strange gifts for days," she continued. "Rare flowers. Stones from protected royal lands. Now we know how an ordinary servant acquired such treasures." Claire felt every eye turn toward her. She could have begged. She could have shouted that someone had planted the bracelet. Instead, she looked directly at Captain Hayes. "I have never seen it before this morning." Victoria smiled as though the answer had already been expected. "Of course." The captain's expression hardened, but before he could order the basket sealed, a deep howl rolled across Ashford Castle. It came from the northern forest, low enough to vibrate through the courtyard stones. Then another answered from the western wall. A third rose beyond the royal stables. Every horse went still. Every bird lifted from the garden at once. The great doors of the palace opened behind the crowd. King Nathaniel Ashford descended the steps without ceremony, his dark cloak moving behind him as guards and nobles bowed. He did not look at Victoria. He looked first at Claire, then at the bracelet, then at a narrow tear along the cuff of Victoria's silver sleeve. "No one leaves this courtyard," he said. His voice was calm, but the command stopped every whisper. "And no judgment will be made until the truth is found." Victoria's confidence faltered for the first time. From beyond the cedar trees came the sound of paws striking earth.
Dozens of them.
Claire turned toward the forest as a massive black wolf emerged beneath the morning sun. Its blue eyes found hers immediately. Something hung carefully between its teeth, a torn piece of silver fabric caught around a small iron key stamped with the crest of House Ashcombe. 4 days earlier, Claire had believed the same wolf was only watching her receive a gift. She had not understood that the royal pack was already watching everything. 4 mornings before the accusation, Claire had found a crown woven from white willow branches on the rear kitchen step. It was no larger than both her hands and decorated with 3 silver flowers that did not grow anywhere inside the castle walls. Claire was 21, an unclaimed Omega whose work began before sunrise and ended long after the royal dining hall emptied. Nobles rarely learned the names of kitchen servants, and most of the cooks remembered her only when herbs needed gathering or an unpleasant task remained unfinished. She had never expected gifts. She had certainly never expected one made with such care. Claire lifted the little crown and searched the empty garden. Mist hung above the herb beds. Water dripped from cedar branches after the night's rain. Beyond the low wall, a black wolf stood between the trees. It was larger than any forest wolf she had seen, with a broad chest, dark fur, and eyes the color of winter sky. Claire did not run. She placed the crown inside her basket and gave the animal a small nod. "Thank you, whoever you are." The wolf held her gaze for 1 heartbeat, then disappeared into the pines. Inside the kitchens, the white crown attracted laughter before it attracted curiosity. An elderly baker called it the work of a secret admirer. A younger servant suggested children had woven it as a prank. Claire set it near the bread ovens where everyone could see it and returned to chopping apples. By noon, the silver flowers had opened wider despite the heat, releasing a clean scent like snow and pine. That was when King Nathaniel first saw it. He had entered through the side passage with Captain Hayes, avoiding the formal reception prepared after his return from the eastern provinces. The kitchen staff dropped into bows. Claire almost overturned a tray of dough when she realized the Alpha King stood only a few yards away. Nathaniel did not ask for ceremony. He walked to the shelf and studied the woven crown. Where did this come from? The head cook pointed toward Claire. She stepped forward, expecting to be questioned for bringing an unknown object into the castle. It was outside the kitchen door, Your Majesty. Nathaniel touched one silver flower, without removing it. Something unreadable passed across his face. Did anyone claim it?
No.
And what did you do with it? Claire glanced at the crowded kitchen. I put it here. It seemed too beautiful to hide in my room. Nathaniel looked at her then, not as a ruler inspecting a servant, but as though her answer had confirmed something important. Most people would have kept it. Most people here work harder than I do, Claire replied. They should enjoy it too. Captain Hayes raised an eyebrow at her honesty. Nathaniel almost smiled. Before leaving, he asked her name. It was the first time any member of the royal family had done so. Claire Bennet, he repeated, committing it to memory. That evening, Nathaniel stood at the western tower and watched a black wolf cross the garden below. He knew the animal at once. Orion, guardian of the royal pack, had not entered the castle grounds in 7 years. The little crown was not a decoration. It was the first symbol in an ancient rite of recognition. Nathaniel could have summoned the priestess and announced it immediately. Instead, he gave Captain Hayes one instruction. Watch the northern garden. Do not interfere, and do not let anyone harm the girl. For the first time in generations, the royal pack had begun choosing someone without command from the crown. Nathaniel intended to learn why. The second and final gift appeared 2 mornings later. Claire found a single blue moonflower resting on top of her herb basket. The blossom grew only beyond the northern cliffs, where royal wolves guarded the oldest forest in the kingdom. Its petals remained closed during daylight and opened only beneath moonlight, yet this one unfolded the moment Claire touched it. She carried it inside, but did not place it beside the willow crown. Instead, she used a clean knife to separate 3 small roots attached to the stem, planted them in clay pots, and set the flower in a cup of water beside the sick room where an elderly scullery worker was recovering from fever. Why not keep it? The woman asked. Because it may grow, Claire answered. 1 flower is beautiful. 3 plants might help someone next winter. Nathaniel heard the reply from the doorway. He had come to inspect supply shortages after storms damaged the southern road, but the official purpose disappeared from his thoughts when he saw Claire pressing soil around the rare roots. The other servants bowed. Claire rose too quickly and left dirt across her cheek. Nathaniel dismissed the attendants with a glance and crouched beside the clay pots. Moonflowers are difficult to divide. Most gardeners lose the original bloom. Then I will have to be careful. You are not worried about ruining a royal gift? Claire looked toward the flower. I do not know that it is royal. I only know medicine should not remain decorative when someone may need it. Nathaniel studied her hands. They were scratched from thorns, reddened by hot water, and steadier than those of many court healers he had met. The royal garden has moonflowers, he said. No one has been permitted inside for years. Why? Because every keeper appointed by the court treated it as a monument instead of a living place. Plants died while officials argued over who had authority to water them. Claire tried not to smile, but Nathaniel noticed. You think that sounds foolish. I think thirsty plants do not care who holds the key. A laugh escaped him before he could stop it. It was a small sound, but Captain Hayes, waiting in the passage, looked genuinely startled. Nathaniel had returned from the provinces burdened by border disputes and council demands. He had not expected a kitchen maid with soil on her cheek to make the castle feel less exhausting. Over the next 2 days, he found reasons to pass through the herb garden. Some were legitimate. Most were not. Claire spoke to him without flattery once she understood he preferred honest answers. She told him which pantry records were wrong, which servants were working without enough rest, and which herbs the royal healers discarded despite their usefulness. Nathaniel listened. He also noticed that she never mentioned the strange gifts unless he asked. She seemed more interested in whether the moonflower roots survived. Their conversations did not go unnoticed. Lady Victoria Ashcombe had spent months positioning herself near the throne. Her family controlled valuable shipping routes, and several council members openly expected Nathaniel to consider her as a political match. She could tolerate the king speaking to servants. She could not tolerate the way he listened to Claire. When Victoria passed the kitchen garden and saw Orion lying beneath the cedar tree while Claire watered the moonflower pots, resentment sharpened into fear. The royal pack had never rested near Victoria. Nathaniel had never laughed with her as he had with the girl in the plain apron. That evening, Victoria entered the Crown Gallery using a guest key issued to her family for the upcoming Founders' Banquet. She opened the display cabinet, removed the silver bracelet, and pressed the lock closed again. A thorn from the ceremonial rose vines caught her sleeve as she turned. She tore free without noticing the strip of silver fabric left behind. From the dark end of the corridor, Orion watched her leave. The following morning, Victoria waited until the kitchen reached its busiest hour. Claire had just returned from the garden carrying rosemary, mint, and the first healthy cutting from the moonflower when Victoria arrived with 2 attendants and demanded that the room be searched. She claimed the bracelet had vanished from the Crown Gallery overnight. Claire barely had time to set down her basket before Victoria reached beneath the herbs and pulled the treasure into view. The accusation moved through the castle faster than fire through dry grass. Captain Hayes arrived within minutes. He examined the bracelet, the basket, and Claire's face. "Who handled this basket after you returned from the garden?" "Several people passed it," Claire said. "I left it beside the preparation table for less than a minute." Victoria folded her arms. "How convenient." Hayes did not answer. He had served Nathaniel long enough to distrust evidence that appeared too perfectly. More importantly, the king had ordered him to watch anyone who approached Claire. A guard stationed near the Crown Gallery had already reported seeing Victoria in the East Corridor after midnight. Hayes sent a soldier to inspect the cabinet before escorting everyone to the courtyard. Nathaniel arrived before Victoria finished presenting her accusation. He listened without interrupting, then asked Hayes one question. "Was the gallery lock forced?" "No, Your Majesty. It was opened with a key." A stir passed through the nobles. Only 6 guest keys existed. Each bore the crest of the family entrusted with it. Victoria lifted her chin. "Then a servant must have stolen one." "Perhaps," Nathaniel said. His attention shifted to the torn cuff of her gown. "Or perhaps the person with the key overlooked what the gallery kept in return." The howl from the forest cut through the courtyard. Orion appeared carrying the torn fabric and the iron key. He crossed between armed guards without looking at them and placed both objects at Nathaniel's feet. Captain Hayes picked up the key. House Ashcombe's crest was stamped into the handle. The strip of silver cloth matched the missing section of Victoria's sleeve. Her face lost its color. "That proves nothing," she said. "A wolf could have found them anywhere." "Then we will use human evidence," Hayes replied. The soldier he had sent to the gallery entered the courtyard carrying a small wooden tray. On it lay a broken thorn stained with silver thread and a thin layer of blue sealing wax. "The crown cabinet is sealed each evening," he explained. "The wax was broken and pressed closed again. The new impression carries the edge of House Ashcombe's ring." Another figure stepped hesitantly from behind the kitchen staff. Anna, a 14-year-old scullery assistant, twisted her apron in both hands. "I saw Lady Victoria near Claire's basket," she said. "I was afraid to speak because she told me I would lose my place if I repeated it." Victoria turned on the girl. "You lying little." Nathaniel stepped between them before the insult was finished. The courtyard changed around him. The approachable man who had knelt beside clay pots was gone. In his place stood the ruler who had ended 2 border wars without raising his voice. "Enough." Victoria fell silent. Nathaniel ordered the bracelet returned to the Crown Gallery and Anna placed under royal protection. Then he faced Claire. "You were accused before the castle. You will be cleared before the castle." He turned to the gathered crowd. Claire Bennet did not steal from the crown. Evidence was planted in her basket by Lady Victoria Ashcombe, who used her family's access to the gallery and threatened a servant to conceal the act. No one whispered now. Victoria's humiliation was complete, but Nathaniel did not use it for spectacle. He stripped House Ashcombe of gallery privileges, removed Victoria from the Founders' Banquet, and ordered a formal hearing before the council. "Your rank gave you access," he said. "It did not give you permission to destroy someone with less power." Claire should have felt relief. Instead, she looked at Anna, who was crying from fear, and crossed the courtyard to place an arm around the girl's shoulders. Nathaniel watched her comfort the witness before defending herself. In that moment, he understood why Orion had brought the first crown. The wolves did not leave after the truth was revealed. More emerged from the cedar forest until the northern edge of the courtyard filled with gray, silver, and black forms. They carried no pile of treasures. Each wolf brought one living thing, a moonflower cutting, a young cedar branch with roots wrapped in moss, a bundle of healing sage, a single white lily. One by one, they placed the plants around Claire's empty herb basket. The gesture was beautiful, but Nathaniel refused to let mystery replace explanation. He sent for Moon Priestess Miriam, the only person still living who understood the full rite. She arrived from the castle chapel with no procession, examined the willow crown and the blue flower, then faced Claire. "The royal pack has not been rewarding you," she said. "They have been testing what you do with beauty, when you believe it belongs only to you." Claire glanced toward the crown she had shared with the kitchen and the moonflower roots she had planted for medicine. Miriam continued, "The first gift asks whether a person hides honor or lets others stand beneath it. The second asks whether rare life is possessed or multiplied. Few reach the next step because most begin performing kindness once they realize they're being watched." Claire looked toward Orion. "I did not know. That is why the test continued." The priestess did not call Claire chosen by destiny or promise her a crown. She spoke instead of a practical responsibility. For centuries, the royal pack had guarded a vast garden behind the northern palace wall. It contained medicinal plants, ancient trees, and seeds preserved from every region of the kingdom. Political families had fought over control until Nathaniel closed it to everyone. "The wolves are asking that the garden be placed in hands that value life more than ownership," Miriam said. "They believe those hands are yours." Claire stared at her scratched fingers. "I work in a kitchen. You keep half this castle healthy without anyone noticing," Nathaniel replied. "A title is not a skill. You already have the skill." The nobles expected him to announce an appointment immediately. He did not. Nathaniel asked Claire to walk with him. He led her through an iron gate sealed since his father's reign. Beyond it stretched the royal garden, but it was not the perfect sanctuary stories described. Vines covered broken paths. One stream had clogged beneath fallen branches. Rare beds stood dry because no court official had been willing to carry water without permission. Claire moved from plant to plant, grief replacing wonder. She found living roots beneath dead leaves, signs that the garden could recover. "If someone began soon." "This is what I wanted you to see," Nathaniel said. "Not a reward. Work." Claire knelt beside a failing cedar sapling and loosened the hardened soil around its base. "Good. Rewards make me nervous." Nathaniel removed his royal coat, set it across the gate, and lifted the nearest water bucket. Claire looked up. "What are you doing?" "Following the instructions of the person who understands thirsty plants." For the next hour, the Alpha King carried water while Claire cleared the stream. No court audience watched them. No priestess explained the meaning. They worked until mud covered Nathaniel's boots and the first channel of clean water reached the cedar roots. When Claire finally sat beneath the tree, Nathaniel lowered himself beside her. "I knew what the first gift meant," he admitted. "I watched because I needed to know whether the wolves saw something I had missed." "And did they?" "Yes." His answer came without hesitation. "They saw you long before the court did. I am ashamed that I was part of a castle where someone like you could become invisible." Claire considered him for a moment. "You noticed eventually." "Not soon enough." There was no grand declaration in his voice, only honesty. He told her he admired her before he understood the right, that he had returned to the garden because he wanted to hear what she thought, and that her courage during the accusation mattered more to him than any political alliance. "I will not turn what happened to you into a reason you owe the crown," he said. "The garden is yours to accept or refuse. So is my company." Claire looked toward the water moving again between the stones. I will accept help with the garden, she said. Then, after a pause, she added, your company may require further evaluation. Nathaniel smiled. That seems fair. The formal hearing took place the next day. Lady Victoria did not offer a sudden tearful apology or claim that jealousy had made her someone else. She admitted only what the evidence forced her to admit. Nathaniel accepted no excuses. House Ashcombe retained its lands, because punishing hundreds of workers for one noblewoman's actions would have repeated the same. Abuse of power. Victoria herself lost her court position, her influence over royal appointments, and the right to enter the castle without invitation. She was ordered to fund wages for lower servants whose employment she had threatened and to complete 1 year of supervised service in the public healing houses. Claire did not ask for cruelty, but neither did she erase what had happened. When Victoria approached her after the hearing and whispered, "Can you forgive me?" Claire answered with more strength than softness. Forgiveness is not the same as pretending you did no harm. Begin by making certain Anna never fears losing her home because she told the truth. Victoria lowered her eyes. It was the first honest lesson she had received in years. Work on the royal garden began that afternoon. Claire refused an embroidered ceremonial gown and arrived in her familiar dress with her sleeves rolled above the elbows. Kitchen workers volunteered first. Gardeners followed. Anna carried small tools and remained close to Claire until her fear eased. Nathaniel joined whenever council duties allowed, sometimes for an hour before sunrise, sometimes after dark with lanterns along the paths. Their conversations changed as the garden did. He told her about decisions that kept him awake. She told him when those decisions sounded wise and when they sounded like pride disguised as caution. He never punished honesty. She never used his interest for advantage. Orion often rested nearby, no longer hidden behind the trees. Within a week, the blocked stream flowed again. Within 2, new moonflower leaves appeared in the clay beds. Claire transferred the original white willow crown to the entrance arch, where rain and sunlight could reach it. Instead of preserving the object behind glass, she allowed living vines to grow through it. Nathaniel understood the choice. "You're changing the symbol," he said. "I am letting it change itself." The morning the first silver flower opened above the gate, the castle bells rang for the founder's banquet. Claire expected the celebration to continue without her. Instead, Nathaniel asked her to attend as supervisor of the royal garden. He gave her no jewels and no costume that would disguise who she was. She entered the courtyard wearing a clean cream dress and carrying a small sprig of moonflower at her wrist. Some nobles still stared. This time, Claire did not lower her eyes. Nathaniel met her halfway across the courtyard rather than waiting above everyone on the palace steps. "You came," he said. "You invited me. I hoped that would be enough." It was. Music began near the fountain. Nathaniel offered his hand. Claire looked at the assembled court, then at his mud-scratched boots hidden poorly beneath formal clothing. "Do kings know how to dance?" "In theory." "That is not reassuring." "Then you may correct me." Their first dance was not perfect. Claire stepped on his foot once. Nathaniel turned the wrong direction and nearly collided with Captain Hayes. The servants tried not to laugh and failed. By the end, Claire was laughing too. The moment mattered because it belonged to them, not to an ancient test. The wolves had opened a door. Nathaniel and Claire were choosing whether to walk through it. At sunrise the following morning, Claire returned to the royal garden expecting another day of clearing roots and cataloging herbs. She stopped at the open gate. The entire royal pack waited along the restored stream. Dozens of wolves filled the paths beneath flowering trees, but none carried branches, stones, flowers, or feathers. Orion stood at the center. Nathaniel, Captain Hayes, Miriam, Anna, and several kitchen workers had gathered at a respectful distance. Claire looked at the empty ground before the wolves. "Did I miss something?" Miriam shook her head. "No. They have finished." Orion walked toward Claire and placed his great head beneath her open hand. Then he lowered himself until his chest touched the earth. Every wolf behind him followed. The movement passed through the garden like wind bending a field of grass. Claire's breath caught. Nathaniel did not explain immediately. He let her see that the wolves were not bowing to a title, a royal appointment, or the woman standing beside a king. They were giving trust to the person who had shared the first gift, replanted the second, protected a frightened witness, and chosen restoration over revenge. Yesterday they brought nothing, Nathaniel said at last, because there is nothing left to prove. Claire looked across the bowed pack, tears bright in her eyes. She did not deliver a speech about kindness. She knelt beside Orion and pressed her forehead briefly to his. "I will protect what you trusted me with," she promised. The wolves rose together. Some moved toward the stream. Others settled beneath the cedars as though the garden had always been their home. Nathaniel approached after the moment belonged fully to Claire. In his hand was the old bronze key to the northern gate. "This was carried by every official who failed this place," he said. "I thought you might prefer something less impressive." He opened his other hand. Resting on his palm was a small wooden tag used by ordinary gardeners to mark new seedlings. He had carved 2 words into it. "Claire's garden." She smiled. "The garden belongs to the kingdom." "Then I carved it incorrectly." "You did. I can make another." Nathaniel turned the marker over. On the back were 3 more words. "Walk with me." The playfulness left his expression, replaced by a vulnerability Claire had never seen in court. "Not because the wolves chose you," he said. "Not because the kingdom expects anything. I am asking because every day I spend beside you makes me want to become a better man before I become a better king. Allow me to court you honestly, without ceremonies deciding the answer for us." Claire took the marker and studied both sides. "You understand that I will continue disagreeing with you. I am counting on it. And the garden comes first. I have seen what happens when the garden does not come first." Claire slipped the marker into her pocket and offered him her soil-stained hand. "Then you may walk with me." Nathaniel accepted it. There was no sudden prophecy, no silver light, and no announcement that Claire had become someone more valuable than she had been the week before. The kitchen workers cheered anyway. Captain Hayes looked toward the sky, as if pretending not to smile. Anna ran to ring the garden bell. Around them, the royal pack lifted a single harmonious howl that traveled beyond Ashford Castle and into every village along the northern road. In the weeks that followed, the royal garden opened its gates to healers, children, servants, and farmers who brought seeds from their own homes. Claire kept her place in the kitchens until she trained others to manage the herb stores, then divided her time between both worlds. Nathaniel visited before sunrise whenever he could, carrying water without waiting to be asked. The willow crown remained above the garden entrance, no longer pale and delicate, but alive with green vines and new silver flowers. People came expecting to see the gifts the wolves had brought. Claire always directed their attention elsewhere, to the moonflowers multiplying in the healing beds, to Anna teaching younger servants how to plant them, and to the king repairing a broken irrigation gate with mud on his sleeves. The rarest gift had never been the crown, the flower, or even the trust of the royal pack. It was the chance to build a place where no useful life was hidden merely because powerful people had failed to notice it.